button now. Ha,
I have one that says start broadcast.
that's where I need it. Where I can't find mine. Oh,
You want me?
will you hit it, please, and then go?
I will. I want to count down 1. I'll count down 2 and count down to 3. Here we go.
Welcome, everybody. As you may notice, I'm missing my good buddy Tony Adams tonight. So on his behalf, I want to welcome everybody from CABA. I obviously am James Rodas with NABA or NABA, and we got our good buddy Doc Watson tonight from Bosch. Bosch is going to blow our mind on ADAS stuff. I know everybody struggles with this, so hopefully this helps a little bit. As always, make sure that you ask questions in the little chat button, and we will try to get them answered for you in a timely manner. And Doc, why don't you go ahead and take it away, my friend?
Great. Thanks, James. So again, as James said, I want to thank everybody, and I definitely want to thank you guys for inviting us to be part of a presentation. And I have a lot that I want to talk about because there, as you know, is a lot going on in the industry. So with that being said, let's jump in to my presentation. If I can get it to pop up, there we go. All right, so I'm just going to kind of flip down through my PowerPoint, and as James said, we'll stop and answer questions as we go. But it starts out in this ever-changing world. There's only one constant, and we all know what it is, and that is change. It's changing rapidly. You know, I've been a tech for, I hate to admit it, 41 years this year. And I'm amazed at everything I have been watching and changing from, you know, light duty automotive all the way up to heavy duty. It's pretty intense. There's a lot of training that has to happen to back up everything. And part of what I'm talking about is, I call it the winds of change that are blowing in the automotive industry. And I'm going to talk about just a few of them here recent that are affecting collision and body shops, let alone general repair shops. That is pre and post scans and how important both of those are. Next is having an enhanced scan tool or enhanced scan tool coverage on your actual scan tool, what all you can do with it. It may be more than just vehicle coverage, but we're going to talk about that a little more in detail also. Having repair information. And as you know, that's what a lot of us can struggle with. Repair information, where do we get it? What should we have? Should we have multiple setup of repair information? There's not one simple answer for that one. Secure gateway access. This is a big deal. This is now more than one manufacturer, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that this evening. Of course, ADAS systems. I'm not going to go into a whole ton of training on ADAS. We have separate classes just for that, but hopefully show you some things maybe you weren't aware of and tie it all together for you, along with EV charging. Is that something you have even thought about? Because that is now part of our industry, is what's happening with electric vehicles. So let's keep right on moving. As every shop knows to check the dashboard for lights before delivering the vehicle to the customer. We all know that. The industry has relied on this method for decades, but it's no longer adequate for many reasons, including there's more systems, which means there's more lights. Which one goes to what? Is it necessary? Can we rely on amber lights, white lights, green lights, orange lights, red lights? Be careful. More complex systems mean more complex repairs. And then many systems don't show on the dashboard. You've probably ran into this. You could have something as simple. Hey, listen to this. I've ran into this more than once, where a shop has repaired a car, had no check engine light, but the customer came back with air conditioning not working. And it ended up being something totally different than you would imagine. And it didn't even have to do with the body or with the air conditioning system. It was the body control that was actually keeping the AC turned off. So the point to this, there's so many systems. How do we know how to attack a vehicle when it comes in for repairs? That's what we need to discuss this evening. As you know, many manufacturers now require or recommend a pre and a post repair scan. GM, Toyota, FCA, Fiat Chrysler, Honda, Nissan, and Mercedes have all said that pre and post repair scans are needed to ensure complete repairs. Think about that. These are some of the biggest manufacturers in the world, and they're telling us we should be performing pre and post scans. There must be something to that, because out of those 6 manufacturers, there were 11,300,000 vehicles sold by those 6 companies in 2016. Well, think about that. That's more than 4 years ago. They were at that number. This number represents 65% of the 17,500,000 vehicles that were sold in 2016. Every year, or every repair and collision shop will need to repair these vehicles according to the manufacturer's procedures. That is the biggest key here, is making sure that it is repaired exactly the way the OEs want. And industry experts recommend scanning every single vehicle during your initial estimate. So do you? That's a question. You don't need to try to answer it to me, but I need you to ask yourself, are you doing that in your shop for every repair, not just for any collision, but for any minor repair? You're going to learn why here in just a second, why I'm asking these questions to you, and I'm going to give you answers. So when is a scan tool required after a repair, during a repair, or whatever? Well, as you know, there's not a simple answer to this question. It just doesn't exist. It will often be based on the age of that vehicle you're working on, the type and the extent of damage, and which options the vehicle is equipped with. Now, I'm hoping you caught into something that was on the last slide. I picked a year of a vehicle. I said 2016. I hope you know why I selected that year, because that was some of the very first years that we started to see things like ADAS systems, the basic ADAS systems being put on the vehicles. Now, your shop may be seeing a lot newer vehicles than that, but you're still seeing that sweet spot of the 2016s, I'm sure. So collision repair professionals will have to apply a level of sound judgment to each vehicle that requires repairs, because as you know, a scratch in a bumper cover of a late model vehicle won't likely need diagnostic work performed, but a frontal collision with multiple airbag deployments will, but it goes even bigger than that. All of these OEs have their own position statements. Hopefully you know where to find those, and I'm going to talk a little more about where to find this information at the very end of my presentation this evening. But there is a lot going on here. This is part of that shift or change that I was talking about, the winds of change. Fiat Chrysler, I love using their position statement because they are very, very accurate in what they're saying, right? So look at this. What I have red boxed out here, safety and security related systems, such as anti-lock brakes, supplemental restraints, occupant restraint controllers or ORCs, seat belts, active head restraints, forward-facing camera and radars, blind spot monitoring, and all automated electronic driver assisted systems must be tested for fault codes. So what they're saying in that one paragraph is you need to be able to do a bumper to bumper scan, pre and post scan. Just remember that. According to FCA, there are several conditions that could trigger diagnostic trouble codes prior to or during collision repair. So it might be a little hard for you to see on your screen, but I'm going to read off a couple of these. The vehicle is involved in an accident or collision, even though the damage may appear minor. the vehicle has been in an accident with or without airbag deployment. Listen, voltage loss, including battery disconnects and hybrid battery disabling. You know what the fire departments do when they roll up on accidents. That stuff can set codes that you may not be seeing with any dash lights. Significant vehicle disassembly, including but not limited to bumpers, door handles, headlights, and mirrors. So I ran into this one just recently on a Ford pickup truck that had the electronic tow mirrors, and it actually had one of the guidance systems for the ADAS. Well, you know what I'm talking about, the lane guidance, right? The shop just put the mirror on, but didn't understand that it had to be relearned, recalibrated, whatever the terminology is that you want to use. They didn't understand that was part of the process today. So hopefully all the shops on here tonight do know that. And if you don't, I taught you something new. So Automotive Service Association, I'm sure most everybody on here is either a member or at least you know who they are. The ASA supports electronic scanning of all vehicles prior to and after collision repairs that are completed in order to ensure that all potential damage has been identified to achieve a safe and complete repair. And there's my sources where I pulled that off the internet. Important information because it is supporting us in the industry when these companies are saying this, making it available to get paid by insurance companies, right? This is the step-by-step procedures that have to happen. But here's the reason why. Here are two crashed vehicles. A 2014 Dodge Durango hit in the left rear. And I've got a 2015 Chevrolet Impala hit in the left front. So we're looking at those two pictures. We'll leave them up there for a second. What vehicle do you think had the most hidden damage? Here we go. So how many codes did the Durango have on a pre-test or a pre-scan? 11. How many codes on the Impala? 0. So the point to all this, the bottom line is you can't tell by looking. You need to perform a pre-scan. I hope that we're teaching that to everybody that is doing those evaluations on wrecked vehicles, that just because the damage looks really severe, it may not be near as severe as other impact features. Remember, Fiat Chrysler Automobile stated, and actually this is what I pulled up and I was reading in that little red box there just a second ago. I'll leave that up for just a second, let you read it. And so is this a game changer for collision body shops? When you think about what just Fiat Chrysler says, let alone Nissan and Ford and everybody else, is this a game changer? Hate when I get tongue tied. Yes, it is throughout everything. Will it affect you if you are a general repair facility also? Now that we know what the OEMs are recommending and requiring us to do, what equipment and training will they need? So, James, I'm going to stop there. I know I went about 10 or 15 minutes. Have we had any questions come in about the first part of what I just talked about? Just the pre and post scans?
Nothing yet, buddy. So again, this is a reminder for everybody. Use your chat for any questions and we will get them up to Doc and get them answered as we go along. But I think it's great stuff right now, Doc. Keep her rolling, buddy.
Oh, I will. We've still have plenty to go. Now I have like 4 hours tonight, right?
As long as you need, I got a full go.
Just checking. I make everybody go, what did he say? All right. What equipment and training will they need? All right. So as I mentioned earlier, a quality scan tool. A quality scan tool means that it is capable of accurate and complete pre and post scans. with accompanying diagnostic reports as well as enhanced vehicle coverage. So when you hear of anybody in the aftermarket industry talking about a quality scan tool, I'm not talking about any one brand. I'm talking about the scan tool's functions, whatever you own. Hopefully it can do all of this. Can it do pre and post scans across the board of all the vehicles you're seeing? Number two, from that scan, can you generate a report that is usable from that scan tool right then and there? And then do you have enhanced vehicle coverage to be able to do that bumper to bumper scan with all modules? And as many of you know, when you start talking about BMW, Mercedes, and any of the Euro cars, there's a whole lot of modules on there. 120, 150 is nothing today. A battery maintainer or a high-end battery jumper pack. Listen to me. If nobody has ever told you about this, this is huge. You cannot accurately scan a vehicle with a weak battery. I'm going to explain this. Listen very carefully. I've got more information coming up on it in a minute. If you have a vehicle, let's say that I'm going to run a hypothesis here, right? So you have a vehicle that got towed in, and maybe it's been sitting in some lot somewhere for, I don't know, 7 days, 10 days, 15 days, whatever. Now you're bringing it in to write your estimate. And one of the things that happens, you plug your scan tool in. If your battery voltage is low, and I'm going to clarify what I mean by low in a few more slides, you can create your own erroneous codes that don't exist because modules, remember, I just said there could be 120 or more. Those modules go stupid when they lose voltage. It is important and imperative that every shop uses either a jumper pack, a battery maintainer. You need something on that vehicle to make sure your voltage is at the correct battery voltage prior to doing a pre-scan. Trust me, you're going to drive yourself crazy looking for things that don't exist if you don't listen to me and listen to the other trainers out there. We're all telling you the same thing. Next, you need copies of those OEM position statements regarding properly conducting these required and recommended scans, because the insurance company will most likely ask to see these. And if you want to get paid, you better have them available for whatever that brand or manufacturer is. So make sure you know where to find those. Training on how to do these procedures properly. Hopefully you're doing that. I know a couple of the local body shops here to me, fairly big. I mean, I've got one here that owns like 7 or 8 different shops, but I went in and trained their estimators on doing this, on the steps to doing it precisely so that they have everything documented to get paid. Because that's the bottom line. Get paid and fix the car correct the first time for your customers. And then a standard operating procedure is part of that training, which I just talked about. I went in personally and helped body shops set things like that up. Next up, need for a powerful diagnostic tool, right? I mentioned that. Vehicle test preparation. That's what I was talking about with the batteries. Scan, report, setup. Finding DTC repair information. Set up the ability to email pre or post scans right from the scan tool, or print it directly from your scan tool, and then clearing the DTCs when and how, because the pre-scan is not the time to clear codes. Trust me, don't do that. And if you're doing it, stop it. You're not helping yourself by clearing codes right after a pre-scan. Reviewing saved pre and post scan and what is in that report. What's the documentation say? All right, so a quality scan tool. The tool should be easy to use and have embedded user-assisted diagnostic and operational help, like in-depth software and module coverage. Your scan tool overall should have a fixed annual update cost. I don't want to hear in this industry ever, no matter whose scan tool you own, oh, I'll wait another year to do the update. I'll just save the money. What are you thinking? Are you nuts? No, you always keep your scan tools up to date with the most current software from that scan tool manufacturer. It's more than just vehicles going to the future or current software. They're just like us, they're backfilling previous vehicles for system coverage and test they may not have had in the last update. So if you're one of those people that will always say, I'll just wait another year till I update, shame on you and quit it. Do it. So I just threw this in here because, of course, I work for Bosch, but with Bosch, we have what's called diagnostics for life. And this is an advantage for a shop to own our tool, that if you have our tool, as long as you keep the current software current, meaning every year you're paying a subscription for the updates for your scan tool. That's vehicle coverage, that's repair information coverage, that is going to be the hardware Android updates also. That tool will stay under lifetime warranty as long as you own that tool. Meaning, even if we outdate the tool, they're going to move you into a newer one to keep that lifetime warranty rolling for you. So this is a big deal. All right, check the battery voltage. This is what I was just talking to you about. Every single time. Listen every time. Be sure that battery voltage is a minimum of 12.6. If you start getting below 12, modules are going to start dropping off the CAN bus, the communication data line. And when they do, let's play hypothetical here. Let's say you're working on a GM, okay? Doesn't matter what manufacturer. I'm plugged in, I'm scanning. My voltage dropped down to 11.5 because I got to have the ignition key on, right? Which means the whole system is powered up, every module on that vehicle. And let's just say it's a, I don't know, Silverado pickup truck. And there's 120 modules on this one because it's got all the ADAS good stuff on it. Well, as those modules go to sleep because battery voltage dropped off, another module will say, hey, where did the door module go? Oh, wait a minute, he's not online. Hey, I got a code for the door module over here. Hey, over here, I'm a door module code. There's nothing wrong with the door module, right? It's because the battery went low. I'm trying to simplify it the most I can for you to understand why it's so important. So with that being said, what Bosch has done, we've incorporated a voltage reading right into that OBD2 connector. So when you plug into the OBD2 port, you are going to see what the vehicle battery voltage is before you ever start to scan. And if you see something like this at 11.8, you better stop and put a battery charger, battery maintainer, or a jump box on it, or you're going to create your own problems. Hopefully this makes sense to you. All right, James, did I get anybody's attention yet? Any questions?
Yeah, well, we had a comment. We had a fella say, wanted to know if you guys are taking this to the insurance companies, because some of them are requiring knowledge position statements and are constantly in denial.
And they're still
well, all we can do is support companies like ASA. And, you know, we support what they say, they support what we're saying, and we're trying to make that change.
I don't, ask me this, if you have somebody.
I got a lot of background noise. That was unusual. Okay.
I can't get down. Told me it doesn't do anything
for you.
Just phone that blocked her because it doesn't ring or anything. Let me see your.
So hopefully, hopefully I've answered that question, but there's nothing as a aftermarket company that we can hit the insurance companies, but we can keep supporting companies like ASA, ASE, NASTF, and they're the ones that will make that drive and that shift. Don't stop trying is what I'm telling you. The insurance companies know, or should know, because they deal with OEs, that this is the way it's going to be in this industry. All right, so I'm going to keep moving forward here. Scan reports. Now, I'm going to show you what our scan report looks like. It doesn't matter to me whose scan tool you own. Hopefully, you've got a scan report that looks like this. So what a scan report on the scan tool should do is prompt you for extra fields, right? So it shows the VIN number. It should give you the option to put in a repair order number, the mileage, and then document whether it's a pre-scan or a post-scan.
I thought, though, just missing it at that moment.
Hey, Doc, is that on your side?
No, it's not. I'm in an office by myself, so.
Everybody, please look up and make sure that you're muted. Nobody should be able to unmute themselves, but we are hearing somebody. Thank you.
Some communication. All right. So,
That'll
still
be
there. So hopefully this is what your DTC reports are looking like, because this, along with those OEM position statements, will help you. So it documents that this was a pre-scan, shop information,
Yeah.
not only a date, but the time stamp.
That's what
Right.
happens. Some of them people like,
James, I don't know how to mute that. Do you?
of course, there was quite a bit of alcohol by then.
Anybody talking on this side?
Hit the
Everybody
ball,
is
you know.
Hey, hang
And
on,
we get
everybody. Can you
and I
hear
got
me?
five.
Doc?
I can, yes.
And anyway, so they're like, I'm like, what'd you guys get? And they're like, 4. Right.
Okay.
Okay. Whatever.
Everybody hold on just a second.
I am holding. Yep, everybody hold on. She's going to try to fix this for us. Hey, I think you
we
have
got
it. No?
Just done a scan.
But anyway, I thought it was so, I didn't care how much, you know, and then Kathy left, she went.
It's a previous. I'm so sorry, Doc. It's a previous recording and I don't know why it's interfering.
I don't either. Well, hopefully we can keep going. We didn't interrupt anybody too much from what we're doing here. Thank you. I appreciate what you did. So as we're talking about, not only a date, but a timestamp of when this vehicle was pre-scanned. So everything is documented along with the repair order number. And then of course, all of the information about the vehicle that's pertinent, including the VIN number, the mileage, and then all of your controllers showing any codes, right? Because this is what's important, is things like this that show the codes and when they were set. All right, next up, we talk about in-depth coverage. Now, with ours, we brag about being 85% or higher OE level when it comes to European vehicles. And we are there. We know we have put ourselves up against, excuse me, the OE factory tools, and we know we are a minimum of 85%. We're actually higher than that across the board of all these Audi, Mercedes, BMW, and Volkswagen. Now, we also are that 95 to 100% Asian and domestic. So we've got some very, very strong software. But there's a reason I brought up the European. Not many shops are European experts. Now, there are some, but not every one. And if your scan tool is at 85% or higher of OE software diagnostics, I want to show you something that happens. This has thrown our customers, and I've had to try to help them. So here we go. Get the right one here. When you scan a vehicle with ours, you may come up with an OE code. Look at this, 0x800 ABF. What in the world is that? That's not anything I'm familiar with. I'm a domestic tech that works on a lot of Asians and US designed vehicles. I don't know that code. So, excuse me. So by going to my scan tool, we have what's called repair source. So we have motors repair information built right into our software. So when I go over, it brought over the year, make, and the model in the code for me right there. See it? Where I've got the arrow pointing. But if you take a look, there's no information here. So even my service information isn't telling me or helping me with that code. What am I going to do? Am I going to send this freaking thing to a dealer? Well, you know what most technicians or shops would do today, right? Jump out to the web browser and let's go to Google and put it in. So let's type it in. And what do we get? Nothing. There's nothing out there about this codes. What are you guys doing when this happens, right? There's not many options when we get to this level of diagnostics. What we do, or what I recommend, and I've trained shops to do, go back out to the web browser. We have a quick link to OEMs, and you guys know what this is. This isn't new. This is OEM One Stop is what this is. And I'll say it again in case you don't know that website. Is OEM One Stop, OENESTOP.com. One Stop. Now, click on BMW, and I'm going to have to register, but I'm going to have to pay to get information, because I have found, and this is no offense, and if you can prove me wrong, you prove me wrong, but I have found Mitchell's, All Data, Motors, Identifix, a lot of times they don't have these European OE codes. So you're going to have to go to the OE website and pay to get the information. So I'm going to spend $30 for a day. I get in and pay attention to what it says here. It tells me that I have to drop the OX off the code. I type it in, and now I have the information. Here's actually a TSB for that code and what to do. I would not have found this, and I definitely would not have found it easily if I wouldn't have taken these steps. So all I'm telling you, no matter who your scan tool is, if you're getting codes that don't make sense to you, don't get frustrated. It's probably not the scan tool's fault. It's actually they're doing you a favor by being at this level of diagnostics, that they're giving you factory codes. And sometimes our repair information that we're using doesn't have those factory codes available. So we've got to go hunt them down. Hopefully that helps if you've ever ran into it. And I know for a fact people have, because I've helped them. All right. Next, secure gateway on newer vehicles. Now, everybody on here, I am sure that you are very familiar with FCA secure gateway, right? But let's talk about what is a secure gateway. It creates a firewall. That's what it does, to secure the radio and telematics from the DLC or OBD2 connector. That's what a gateway does. It secures that network on the vehicle from malicious software and hackers from being able to do anything to any module software on that vehicle. What's interesting, it's bigger than just scan tools. This secure gateway module actually also works with the telemetrics to deal with like GM OnStar, a Hyundai Blue Link, all of those, so that they can't be hacked even electronically through wireless and Bluetooth. So this is big for these OEs. And as I talked about, it creates a firewall, preventing the radio from communicating with the outside sources. I already talked about that. Overall, it's protecting the driver and its occupants. That's the main purpose of having a secure gateway. Be aware, Fiat Chrysler is now not the only one that has this. And I'll talk about a little bit here in just a second. We know that Chrysler, or Fiat Chrysler, is an early adapter of the security gateway. Bosch as a company worked to comply with Chrysler's requirements for the secure gateway. And then Bosch worked with Chrysler and developed a solution for the aftermarket and all of the Bosch and OTC scan tools. As other OEMs adapt some type of secure gateway, rest assured that Bosch, and I know the other scan tool companies are too, are continuing to work with the OEs to be compliant and to provide the aftermarket with a solution rather than have to have 100% OE tools across the board. So what's the impact to you with the Fiat Chrysler Secure Gateway Access, right? Well, diagnostic functions such as reading DTCs or viewing live data are not impacted. So any scan tool can go in and look at the DTCs and you can look at live data. But functions such as clearing those codes or having any type of bidirectional testing or redoing any calibrations or like an SDM module setup, all of that is impacted. In order to perform these functions, the vehicle secure gateway will need to be unlocked by an authenticated tester and user. That's the other part of this. The key is and user. Only certified scan tools with internet access will be allowed to access the secure gateway vehicles. Excuse me. And as I said, all of Bosch and OTC scan tools are certified by FCA. Along with that, if you're not aware, starting in 2020, Ford or all of Ford systems across the board are now implementing a secure gateway. It is not the same setup as Fiat Chrysler's. Fiat Chrysler's looks something like this. You have to go through a third party called AutoAuth and set up an account with them, and you pay a 1-year fee to AutoAuth to validate your shop and your technicians. It has nothing to do with anybody's scan tool. You have to do this according to Fiat Chrysler, unless you're running a factory YTech tool, right? The micropod. But any aftermarket scan tool, we all have to follow this procedure. But once that's been done, it's very simple. With a Bosch tool, it's very simple. These three things. The software on the tool has to be at 4.0 or higher. That's been out for a year now, or actually almost 2 years. So that's not an issue in the industry at all. The tools need to be connected to the internet. That is the big deal. Keep that in mind, because I've been questioned, Doc, what about when I go for a test drive? Well, you're probably going to need a hotspot to keep your scan tool connected to the internet. It will keep the gateway open. When you back out the garage and once you drop internet connection, that gateway will stay open for a momentary, and like, don't say that I'm right or wrong here, but it's somewhere like 3 minutes or so that gateway stays open. But after that, you're going to need your credentials in the tool to open the gateway once again and connect it to the internet. All users that use the scan tool will need to enter their AutoAuth credentials when prompted on the tool to unlock the secure gateway. And as I talked about, even Ford now, starting in 2020 and through 2021, they have implemented their own secure gateway module. Theirs doesn't use AutoAuth. It's all done with a compliant scan tool. It's for anybody that does anything with door keys and ignition keys, it's a cycling key code to unlock their secure gateway. Bosch already has it in our scan tool. We've already made our deal with Ford. It's already part of our software. It works. It's awesome. So again, just be aware that is happening. If you grab your scan tool and you've got older software and you can't get in to do everything with a 2020 or a 2021 Ford, it's probably that you need to update your scan tool, because the other scan tool manufacturers will be following suit, the same as us, working a deal with Ford to have those revolving key codes so that they can unlock the secure gateway module. All right, so with that, I'm coming up to some ADAS information I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys. So I'm going to stop there. And do we have any questions at all about anything to do with secure gateway or anything that we've talked about so far?
Nothing yet, buddy.
Wow, you know what, James, I need you to write my boss, tell him I need a raise if I'm doing that good explaining things. Holy cow.
You
That's
are doing
awesome.
that good, my friend.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So ADAS systems, these are the big buzzwords right now in the industry, whether you're at the OE level or whether you're in the aftermarket level, ADAS systems is it. So there's more to it than what people are telling you. I want to talk about it for a minute. So let's talk about the progression of ADAS. Where did it come from? You guys, anybody that's been around as long as I have, ABS brakes happened in 1978. Yes, ABS brakes go back that far. Traction control happened in 1986. That's not new. We've been dealing with this for a long time. In 1995, they added ESP. You know what that is. ESP is where it ties the traction control and ABS brakes and everything, transmission, all of that together. But now we've moved into ADAS, and in the future, could be near future, we're going to be moving into automated driving systems. There's your progression. I want you to just stop for a minute. I want you to think about my time that I'm showing you on this line. And how long have you been in the industry and doing automotive repairs? It doesn't matter if it's been 1 year or 35 years. You've dealt with some of this already, but there's a lot more that I want to talk about. What is advanced driver assistance systems? It uses various sensors and cameras along with the vehicle's computer system, excuse me, in order to help a driver with parking or driving task. Yeah, you got to love that the parking is part of it too, right? These cameras and sensors can be found in many different places on the vehicle, such as the windshield, side mirrors, as I told you about earlier, front and rear bumpers, around the wheels, suspension, and drivetrain. Do you ever stop to think about that? ADAS incorporates all of these components that you guys are dealing with. Why? Because ADAS is this. It's blind spot detection, rear cross traffic alert, forward collision warning, lane departure warning, overhead clearance assist, parking lot parking, driver drowsiness detection, automatic emergency braking, lane keeping support, traffic jam assist, advanced driver cruise control, intelligent headlight control, integrated cruise assist. Do you ever stop to think about all of this? When we talk about ADAS, this is what we're talking about. So what is ADAS? When ADAS detects what could be a hazardous situation, the vehicle will either warn the driver or it makes a corrective necessary action to stop a collision. That's what it's all about. If the sensors and the cameras that are used for these functions are not calibrated or aligned properly, the ADAS system will fail to operate correctly. You know that. That's common sense, right? So the question is, are you afraid of working or dealing with advanced driver assist systems? It's a hot topic. We know that. Um, The current reality of ADAS at the shop level is quite different because you guys are working on things every single day that I'm wondering, as a technician or a shop owner, you're thinking about what systems affect what. So let's just talk about automatic braking or lane keep support or adaptive cruise control, right? Just 3 out of all of those functions of ADAS that I talked about. Well, if you're doing brakes at all in your shop, if you're doing any kind of suspension work in your shop, if you're doing any kind of steering work in your shop, and listen, even if you're doing things like wheel speed sensors, you're working on ADAS. Wow. Did you ever really stop to think about that? How much this affects the vehicle you're working on? Because especially with general repair shops, this is what gets their attention. This means that even the most sophisticated laser camera and radar still need to have brake pads, rotors, tires that carry out the corrective action in an emergency or during normal operation. Think about those 3 things I've got up there right now. Is that anything you deal with? Is it anything from another shop that works on vehicles that sends them to you? Because remember, the best way to survive a crash is to avoid it totally, right? In the first case, it's the primary line of defense is your brakes. Every new car and the vast majority of used cars on the market these days have ABS, power assistance, electronic brake force distribution, and an array of other driver aids. So you might assume that you can stomp on that pedal with all your might and it'll all be okay, right? Nope. Just like your car's tires, engine, and even air conditioning systems, the brakes require a bit of attention to keep them performing at their best, and that can mean the difference between a near miss and a dangerous disaster. So even though it's something as simple as brake pads, if they're replaced with the wrong friction material, this is significantly different than the original material. It can cause issues with the ADAS system, right? The ADAS corrections could take longer to bring the car under control if the pads don't produce enough friction. If the new friction material is too aggressive, it could cause abrupt corrections or even overcorrection. And with adaptive cruise control, the driver may notice jerky performance. If the friction material does not match the program value, it can result in stability control problems. This condition often results in overcorrections with the understeer suddenly turns into a snap oversteer. It possibly becomes a battle between stability control and the driver, and the vehicle is often the loser if that ever happens. So I want to talk about this. More sophisticated ABS systems are using pressure sensors on all 4 brake hydraulic circuits. Listen to what I just told you. Pressure sensors for all 4 hydraulic lines that is being fed back to the body controls module, as well as the ABS control module. And all this data works together, right? It's called data fusion. You may have already heard this in other classes. It all has to tie together. Now, I want you to think about, I said each line has their own sensor. Imagine doing a brake job. Like if some shop has always done it all their life, right? They push the caliper piston back. They take the caliper off. They turn the rotors, replace the rotors, whatever they do, new brake pads, put the calipers on, turn the key on, and pump the brakes. Did you catch it? Remember, the brake caliper piston is back. You pumped up the brake pedal with the key on. What do you think those pressure sensors are seeing? They're seeing a low pressure on not one, but 2 lines minimum. So now you have a code stored somewhere because of low brake pressure that can affect part of your ADAS system. See how big ADAS becomes when you start thinking about all the other components that tie in with this? So here's all the other components. Think about it. How much of this have you worked with or changed? How about fuel level sensor? Do you ever even stop to think about the fuel level sensor as being part of an ADAS system? Well, it is, because if you don't have the right amount of fuel in there, oh, wait a minute. What's fuel weigh? Like 8.1 pounds per gallon? Yeah, it changes the height of the vehicle. Excuse me. So having that load, or rather fuel level, the body control and ADAS functions can take into account the rear bumper height from factory by knowing how much fuel is in there. Anybody ever explain that to you before? Because that's the truth. That's what's tied into this. So steering angle sensor, all of this is ADAS. So the last part of ADAS I want to talk about here, and then we're going to open it up. Hopefully we'll get some questions with all this information. I sure hope so. I'm excited to be sharing this with you. There's 2 different calibrations if you're not aware of it. Static calibration is where you need those targets along with OE level software to activate the vehicle to turn on those calibrations, to do that relearns and re-aiming. That is static. But then there's also dynamic. Dynamic can be done with a scan tool. Dynamic is allowing the vehicle to go into a relearn while driving the vehicle. And it's a step-by-step process. Now, we have in our software, and I don't know what tool you own, doesn't matter to me, but we have what's called a guided tour. And it will tell you every single thing you need to do. There's no walking away from the scan tool ever during static or dynamic calibrations. You just follow every step on that scan tool. Now, I want to point this out to you. I made up this little slide here to show you static static makes up 56% of the ADAS out there. That's a big number, 56%. But 37% of the vehicles out there can be relearned dynamically with your scan tool. So remember that. You need to check the vehicle before you go through all the process, because if you just changed something simple, like maybe the camera in the windshield, you may not need to go through a static relearn. You may just need to do the dynamic. Then there's about 2% of the vehicles out there that need both static or dynamic. And then there's 5% that need, I said it backwards, I'm so sorry. Static or dynamic is 2%. Dynamic and static together, where it needs both, is only 5% of the vehicles out there. So this is the part that you need to know right here, is where do you fit? How do we know? You have to ask your scan tool. You have to find your documentation. So I've got a short little video I put together to show you where to find the information. And here we go. I'm going to walk you through this. I'm sure you have been here, icar.com. This is free, rts.i-car.com. Now on the left side, you're going to watch what I do. I scroll down to calibration research. I'm going to put in a vehicle. I picked a Ford Taurus and a 2019. Again, this is free. And that's why it's so important that we keep doing training, is for everybody to learn where all these resources are. So now it's going to tell me, right? Active park assist, adaptive cruise control, whether it turns on a light, whether it doesn't turn on a light. This is the important stuff, right? Well, it's set at DTC, but check this out. If you scroll down, it will tell you where the sensor is, and it will tell you if it's going to need calibration or initialization. Look at that. There it is. Uh-oh. It says even if you change tire size. Listen, if you're doing anything to that vehicle that changes the ride height, if you're changing springs, if you're doing an alignment, if you put in a ball joint and you've done a realignment, if you're changing tire size, you need to find out if that car should be relearned. And this is the information that you need to find right here. Again, iCar, free. I love that they're helping us out in the industry to do that. And the last picture up here, before I go any farther, is our ADS, or I'm sorry, DAS 3000-1. This is what the Bosch ADS system looks like, and it is quite the system. And we are at that OE level licensed. Software targets, software on the scan tools and targets. All of this is OE licensed. So with that, hopefully, James, I've got some questions now. I'm hoping, because I threw a lot of stuff out there.
Well, we had one, you said Bosch is 85% on European cars. He must have
Yes.
missed a percent on American and Asian. What is that percent? I think you said 95 maybe?
On the Asian and domestic,
Yeah.
I would put it between 95 to 100. Well, I'm sorry. I got numbers in my head tonight. 98 to 100% across the board to a OE level diagnostic tool. I'm talking about on our Chrysler software, we can do, oh my gosh, almost everything that I've watched the Chrysler topology do. Right? I mean, Bill, when you do that pre and post scan and you know which modules are online and which modules are not online, that's huge.
Well, I will tell you personally, I like FCA's,
Gateway.
well, yeah, the view, the topology.
I
think
do
that's
too. That thing's
super
awesome.
cool. It makes it easy. It takes the stupid out of it for us, which we need sometimes. It's just a really cool, easy way to look at it, be able to tell what's going on.
You know, I wish, now let me clarify, if you haven't used a Bosch tool, we don't have that screen that shows all the modules that light up green and orange and red. I wish we did, but that is a licensed thing from Chrysler. But when you do our pre and post scan and you can see which modules are active and inactive, it's really the same thing. It's just not a visual. So I want to make sure I clarify that, because I wish that I had that topology screen from Fiat Chrysler, because I do love it too.
So you touched on something really cool that I don't think is getting done properly. Tire size, doing alignments, a lot of those require that you are then going to at least redo your lane camera. Vehicle needs to be unloaded, full of fuel. So, and this is the first time it hit me. So when these cars are delivered to dealerships, they are usually delivered with 5 gallons or less.
Yes, sir.
So the OEM has a way to do it without them being full?
Yes, sir. It's in the software. It will tell you exactly what to do. And normally they're going to have you either load the trunk area or take something out, but they're going to be very specific when you do those calibrations. And again, I'm going to reiterate, our software is licensed OE software. So I know, James, you had just went through some training with Nissan. You had told me.
Yes.
Our guided tour is going to mimic identical to whatever you learned at Nissan. Step by step.
Will you guys be like an Aztec soon, to where it's, when you look, it'll say, you know, you can use FDRS, Aztec, or Bosch?
I wish I could tell you that and 100%, but I can't. I know they're working on some things in the company, but as a trainer, I'm not told all the goodies. My pay grade doesn't go that high.
Guys, make sure you're hitting the question box so we can ask Doc some more questions. I think this was a great presentation. Some shops have wanted to stay OEM with their scan tools. What makes
Yes.
Bosch, Launch, or Snap-on be considered accurate? That's a great
Well,
question.
that is a fabulous question. So what I like is, now I can't talk about the other 2 or 3 that were mentioned. I can't speak directly for them, but I'm going to guess they follow suit as well as Bosch does. We purchase all of our software from the OEs. So once it's purchased, we validate it. We've got test engineers that validate that vehicle coverage in the field. Plus, we have more than 50 beta test sites across the nation using our tools exclusively, giving us feedback on shortcomings, on holes in software. So to answer your question, I'm very confident in telling you that everything I'm telling you is 100% because we do purchase it and we do validate it as a company.
Okay. So,
And to be honest, we have to, because, we're a tier 3 provider in the industry, at the OE level. So anything we do aftermarket has to be at that level also.
okay. Does Bosch design and build the sensors for any OEMs?
Yes, many. If you're asking me particulars, I can't give it to you. As far as I know, and James, some of your training that you went through recently, and some of the people on this call, maybe you've went through OE level training, but there's really 2 or 3 companies that build anything to do with ADAS. Bosch is one of them. The other 2, if I remember correctly, are Asian. Whether they're China, whether they're Japan, I don't know. I don't remember. But Bosch is a huge part of this because of everything we do in Europe. And many of the OEs, no matter where the car is manufactured, is going to Bosch sensors.
Okay. So when you said that your tool is going to walk them through just like say the Nissan consult, since we're
Correct.
talking about Nissan.
Yes.
So all your measurements are going to be identical to what the console is going to say, because I know some of them, like you see that the placards, the captcha that you put up there is maybe a different color, not quite like the Nissan one. Is your guys' identical?
I can tell you, James, that's a fabulous question. And yes, it's identical. If you took our target board and the fixture, you can use it with the OE scan tool across the board.
Okay.
That is a great question. I love that one.
Well, I got somebody raising their hand, but they're not asking a question. So let's text them real quick.
Well, I hope everybody was paying attention about all that stuff that makes up ADAS, because it's more than just these sensors and cameras. All right. Well, as more questions are coming in, Jeff, I'm going to go into my final part here, and I want to talk about some other changes that are happening, and then we'll open it up full blast for any questions that anybody might have. So the next shift that is happening right now is EVs, right? Everybody, if you're not aware of this, and I'm sure you are, EV is the next push. Excuse me. So just to give you kind of a time frame here, I went through all the way up through, I showed you, from ABS brakes to ADAS, right? And we've known about, hybrid vehicles since the 90s, but now things are starting to change because the market looks something like this. The current state, 2% of all new car sales through 2020. Vehicles from Tesla, VW, e-Golf, the Ford Focus electric, the Chevrolet Bolt, the BMW i3, the Audi e-tron, Nissan Leaf, Hyundai Kona, Volvo XC40, more than 1.5 million electric vehicles are on the road currently. That is a huge number. Nearly 8% of those were sold in California in 2018. 50% of all of the EVs were sold in California. Growing sales nationwide, there are 13 states that account for the other 79% of all of the EV sales. I'm going to leave that chart up there just for a second. Depending on where you're at, you may want to look at that. But EV is coming, and it's coming to us fast. Okay, so here's some terminology that I want to clarify. You may hear BEV, that's battery electric vehicle, or also branded as EVs. These are fully electric vehicles with rechargeable batteries and no internal combustion engines. They must be plugged in to recharge the internal battery, and there is no other fueling option. This would be the Tesla, the Chevrolet Bolt, the VW e-Golf, and the Nissan Leaf. Next is the PHEV, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Battery powered with an onboard gasoline engine and regenerative braking, right? We've seen this around for a while. Can travel 10 to 40 miles on battery power alone, and then can be plugged in to charge the internal battery or refuel like an internal combustion engine. This would be your Chevrolet Volt, Ford Fusion, the Audi, the Volvo XC90 and T8, the BMW i8. And then you have the hybrid electric vehicle, which is a gasoline powered brand. And that, I'm just going to go down here at the bottom, the Toyota Prius hybrid and the Honda Civic hybrid are the most common. So those are the three terms that if you haven't been seeing it, you're going to be seeing it very soon. And here's why. GM committed to 20 new EVs by 2023, including the GMC Hummer and EV models from Buick, Chevrolet, and Cadillac. Ford has committed to 40 new electric vehicles by 2020, which include the F-150 and the Mustang Mach-E. VW's goal of 28 million electric vehicles by 2028. So they're planning on 1 million annually by 2023 to be sold. Tesla is shooting for 500,000 cars in 2020. That was that was the number they hit in 2020, with an expected 2 million by 2025. So this is big, and it's coming to all of us. There's also another, new OEMs that are getting into this market, and here's a few of them: Rivian, Nikola, Lordstown Motors, Bollinger, and dozen more startup companies that are moving into the electric vehicle market in the very near future. So you may be running into other vehicles very soon that you're not used to seeing. Estimated 9 million new charging stations will be needed to support this EV growth. So are you prepared? So if you're doing any of this right here, brakes, tires, tire rotation, wipers, alignments, suspension, HVAC, module repair, windshield replacement, collision repair, are you prepared to do an ASE exam for electric vehicles? And number two, supporting EV charging at your shop, because that is, Tesla has kind of set the standard. Now, whether you like Tesla or not doesn't matter to me, but Tesla is opening up all these charging stations everywhere. And if the person goes somewhere, they expect that they can charge their car. If they're going to have it in their shop, they're going to expect that you should be able to charge it for them. Think about that. You're not expected to go fill somebody's gas tank, but an EV car owner, they kind of expect that you're going to take care of them because they own an EV. Are you prepared for that? Because Bosch does have the chargers available. And this is now our big focus going forward, along with ADAS, is making sure that all the shops in this country know we have this available to them. And there are many options. As it talks about the universal SAE J1772 charging connector, works on all electric plug-in hybrid vehicles. So that is this new standard plug-in. And then you can get an adapter that goes from the J1772 and plugs into a Tesla. Not that you'll work on a Tesla, because I think Teslas are, they're kind of weird, aren't they? They only want their own companies or dealerships working on them. But the bottom line is, if you're a shop owner, have you even thought about this? The next shift, and what are you going to do? Where can you put it? Well, let me show you just what Bosch has to offer. Now, as this progresses forward, you know there's going to be competition, right? Right now, we're first to market. But there's a single charging station, and then there's a dual charging station. So, is there a place in your parking lot that can be put? There's also a level 2 EV810 that is waterproof, that can be put on any pole, basically, as long as you've got that 220 plug-in to plug it into. So that could be, I don't know, like an entrance going into the shop, that you could have a place for that charger. And then the next one is this one, the EV400, has a 25-foot cable, and this is portable. So you can move this to anywhere within that shop, anywhere at all, as long as you have that plug-in. What's nice about it is, let's say that that's the same plug-in that you're using for a welder, right? I'm just saying, I don't know if it's the same exact 3-prong or 4-prong, but the whole idea is you can unplug it, get it out of the way, and still use that plug-in for other things. So it doesn't have to be a dedicated plug-in. So just want you to know, all of these are available to you, and this may be something that you can think about to generate some more revenue, or can be a customer satisfaction type thing in your shop, depending on how big your shop is and what you want to do for your customer. So I know I blew through a lot of information tonight, and I thought it was going to take a lot longer than this, but I didn't get many questions. So I want to open it up, and if there's anybody has any questions over any of the material, I can back up and we can talk about it specifically. I will try to clarify anything that I said in more detail. So James, yes.
I have a couple questions. Does your tool tell mileage when a code is set like an OEM tool would?
Now I got to think about how you said that, because I have an awful lot of OE tools and they don't set the mileage except in the black box data. So forgive me here, I'm thinking out loud.
Some will tell you key cycles, some will tell
Correct.
you mileage.
It'll tell us key cycles. It'll do all that same thing, but I've never seen a mileage counter or lock on a code, even with an OE tool, unless I was pulling, crash data out of a crash box. So for me, the best way I can answer that, it would show me key cycles. It would show me all that pertinent information, but I don't believe that our tool gives you mileage documentation.
Because I know when I went to that Nissan training, the consult did that.
It locked it in with the mileage on the code?
Yeah.
I have not seen it, and I've ran the consult. I didn't see it with the consult. I'll have to try it again.
Okay, and then another question. Does the scan tool inform you if the calibration is static or dynamic, or does that require additional research?
No, it's awesome. So, and I wish I could pull my tool right up here in front of you, and I can tell you that we would love to come back James, and if there's more training that we can do for your group, I'd be glad to do it. But now with that being said, once I identify the vehicle with our scan tool, every single thing you see from that point forward on our scan tool is strictly related to the car you're working on. There will never be anything generic. It's just not going to happen. Now, with that being said, I'm just going to walk you through the procedure from my memory. I hit auto ID. I'm into the vehicle. The next thing that I would do is I would hit, it's some scan tools may call it a common test, but it's a special test feature that pulls up all of the most common special tests. And at the bottom of that screen will be ADAS. And it will say ADAS calibration relearn and show you what modules are available dynamically. I don't have to go any farther. I hope that answered your question.
It did.
Good.
Another question was, is your distance identical to the OEM distance when
For the
you're
target
doing
boards?
calibrations? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. OEM procedures, I think we covered that one. For the EV cars, are the shops going to be required to have charging stations? Obviously, yes. Will the shop have to have the car plugged into the charging station to do a pre-post scan?
Ah, interesting. My answer to that would be no, as long as you have, because when you plug in that OBD2 scanner, you're still going to have that 12 volt reading, right? So as long as you've got that 12.6, 12 to 12.6 showing available at the OBD2 pin 6 and 14, I'm sorry, pin 16 and 4, right? So ground to power on that OBD2 connector, excuse me, you would not need to plug an EV vehicle in as long as your 12 volt power source is high enough. Because remember, these 400 volt and higher vehicles have that AC to DC inverter, and they're going to maintain 12 volts for a long, long time. That's a great question, though.
Matt, did I get all your questions answered? If not, please re-ask that second one. Another question has there been any talk or concern of the increased demand on the electric grids with the anticipated massive increase in electric vehicles over the next few years?
I believe there has been a ton of discussion about that. You know, I don't want to get into any political discussions. All I can say is, as our company is working towards that, as you know, that's what's driving all of the EV. I hope that they're prepared for what you just said. I don't have that answer.
Well, I'm going to guess if our government's involved, they're probably not going to be ready for it. But
well, I'm trying to stay politically neutral here.
All right. Well, I think we got everything covered.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I really thank you guys for having me on tonight. And I was hoping maybe my camera would come back up.
I think I broke it.
I see you.
Sorry about that. So, NABA, KABA, I want to thank everybody for joining. Our next one, I believe, is April 12th, and that is Spinisi. So everybody from now to then, have a very good Easter. And Doc, thank you and Bosch for joining us tonight. And we'll see everybody in a couple weeks.
Thank you so much.